Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Bushkin, and today I'm very happy to bring you a video sponsored by PUBG Mobile, but the topic was chosen by you grubs. This is a question I get asked all the time by the subscriber base. What's better, the blunt force trauma of the AKM or the svelte curves of the M416? And the answer to that question is not simple, but I'm going to break down the pros, the cons. We're going to math the hell out of this thing, and we're also going to talk about the real life meta of PUBG Mobile, the Battle Royale extravaganza. Stick around. I'm going to give you some videos at the end that are really helpful for you if you want to get better at the game, and we're going to talk about where I got all my numbers from and where I keep all my numbers, thebushka.com. Well, first of all, let's talk about the reason we are really discussing these two guns. The guns are incredibly popular and very much beloved by their real followers. The M416 is the darling of the spraying far away set, and the AKM is the darling of the spray and pray set. But both of them have features that really recommend them across far more nuanced gameplay than that. And it's a bit of a misnomer that you can't be accurate with the AKM. It's definitely got more recoil, but at the same time, it is absolutely capable, once you get set up correctly, of pulling off really nice, decent ranged engagements. So what we're going to do is talk about the real pros and cons of the weapons, and then I'm going to give you some math on it. But let's talk about the M416 first. Its hallmarks are pretty straightforward. It has incredibly good shell velocity, which means you have to lead the target by less when you compare it to the 7.62 rounds. And that just basically means that it's easy to aim at targets that are further away. It has less recoil because it's a lighter round as well. It takes up less backpack space, the round itself, so you can carry a lot of ammo, a lot of other stuff. And we need to understand that you can't overestimate, or overstate rather, the importance of shell velocity. If you're playing and your round is in the air and the opponent's round is in the air and your round hits first, your round disappears if you die. Like, the round just ceases to exist. The best attachments for the M416 I've always found have been the tack stock, the compensator, and the half grip. The best attachments to the AKM are just the compensator. And that's where the M416 has a big advantage. Again, it can row a tack stock and a lower rail attachment. Now, that half grip, it's not a mistake. I have done a lot of testing with that, a lot of spray patterns, and that has come up as the winner for me time and time again. There are other grips that will work with it, and that's kind of the joy of the M416, is it's got a really high floor. By that I mean that the expected return with any grip, without grips, without attachments, everything is still pretty bloody good. Whereas the AKM, if you try and run it without a compensator and start doing sprays at 100 meters, the expected return is like zip. You're not going to get a whole lot back either way. Now, the joy of the M416 over and above everything else is its versatility. It's renowned for this, in fact. It allows you to be both successful in carrying around an M416 and a Tommy gun, and then roll along with an M416 and a Kar 98K, because the M416 can cover off on more engagement types than an AKM can successfully. It's not as good as an AKM really up close and personal, but at extreme ranges of, say, 150, 175, 200 meters, it's much, much better. And people seem to really overstate the range. You can do a full spray with a 3-scope and an M416 at 100 meters, and people seem to think it's like 200 meters, and it's not. Full spraying at 200 250 meters is obscenely hard to do. And it doesn't matter if it's gyro or whatever. That kind of range is just, people get it wrong all the time. The difficulty with getting an M416 altogether is obviously that it takes a lot to fully kit it out. Getting it ready and set up with all kinds of different stuff, like a 3-time scope and a compensator and a half grip and a tack stock is difficult. But for all that, it's not the hardest thing in the world to just run it on its own. So it's swings and roundabouts. Now let's talk a little bit about the positives of the AKM. For starters, it absolutely has the best iron sights in the game. I'm telling you right now, boys and girls, I love the iron sights on the AKM. They are gorgeous. And it's without doubt, kicking the butt of the M416 in the up close and personal stuff. Oh, as Bushka goes on a baiting safari again. Helped by Mr. Ouija firing his shotgun downstairs to see if we can get this guy out. The AKM's numbers scream. Let's, in fact, talk a little bit about those numbers right now. Now, there's this weird thing out there where people get upset at me when I tell them the numbers on these guns because they're not the same as PC. And people tell me that I'm lying and that I'm wrong. And you're an idiot if that's what you think. Go and look at my website, thebushka.com. They are very different to PC numbers with good reason. But the thing that is absolutely crystal clear here is that the AKM's numbers are gorgeous in up close and personal close quarters combat. To clear a level 2 vest, the AKM's time to kill is 0.297. The M416's is 0.38 of a second. The rate of fire of the two guns is actually quite close. 0.099 for the AKM, 0.095 for the M416. So there's like 4 1,000ths of a second, which means that the AKM's base damage, which is 47, not the 49 people keep quoting me from PC games, versus the M416 base damage of 40 is just outrageously good for close quarters combat. The other thing is all 5.56 ARs do 40 base damage to a no vest wearing chest area target. And by the way, this is how good the iron sights are. Look at me go to single tap fire and just this bloke, tap, 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 tap. It's gorgeous when you can run that kind of engagement with an AKM. And you've got to set up properly for it. We'll get to that in just a second. But the real key here is that because the numbers are so similar in terms of rate of fire, then the AKM absolutely dominates close. There is a weird myth that the M416 is better at killing level 3 gear than the AKM, and that's just bollocks. I think that's come from PC again, but a level 3 vest, the M416 will clear in 0.475 seconds. The AKM will do it in 0.38. Into level 3, helmet and vest together, one shot into the head each. It'll take the AKM 0.297 seconds, one into the head, 3 into the chest, and it'll take the M416 0.38 seconds, 1 into a level 3 helmet, 4 into a level 4 chest to clear it. So all those numbers favor the AKM. And that's really the only part of the outcome that really swings decisively to the AKM. The up close and personal. But it's a really important part of the gameplay. And as you get better at the game, you manufacture engagements. But if you look at this map here, Miramar, the AKM doesn't really have a place on it. And if you look at final circles like this, I'm using an AKM, which is great when I have to rock the bloke who's just on the right. But when I've lost all that health and his mate's down near the beach and I've got to try and get a good shot on him, it's going to be absolutely hopeless compared to the M416, which can keep the nozzle of the gun, the pointy bit of the gun down really, really comfortably. And that versatility is just incredibly effective for the M416. Now, this kind of a shot here, and you can see, look, you're going to see time and again in these clips, where when it comes down to having to hit, then I run the M416. Now, the recoil profile in the AKM is legitimately bad, and this is where I want to talk about how you can set the game up to allow you to actually use guns like the AKM, and specifically the AKM, really, really effectively. There is a real reliance on what people do on the very, very best of players on YouTube that show videos like Athena tap firing an SLR at 100 meters like it's an M416 and shredding people. And that's great, but you shouldn't be setting your sensitivity up, which is what I'm about to talk to you about, for that, unless you are the top 1% of the top 1% in the game, because that's the people we're talking about here. What you want to do is set your sensitivity up correctly so that you can use guns like the SCAR-L and the M416 and everything, and the DMRs like the SKS or the Mini 14 and the AKM for all kinds of different engagements, and then play accordingly. So you've got to develop your own playstyle before this stuff kind of works. I've got videos on how to do this, and I know I don't want to belabor this point, but it really factors into the AKM, because I find that I can do things with the AKM that a lot of the people I watch play with just can't, because they don't put the time in on the range, and they don't put the time in on their sensitivity to make it work. So I'm going to put that video, my perfect sensitivity settings video, at the end of this video. The link in the, the end screens. Now this is where the AKM is like, lay down, Mazet, just absolutely better. There's no way around it. This thing destroys, dominates, shreds, and makes people lament and cry. But look here, I've got an AKM and an M416, and I'm holding on the M416 because I'm not certain what engagement is coming up, but I know the M416 will cover off on more. And then as soon as I see that the engagement is going to be close, I immediately change to the AKM. And this is what so many good players do. The Mortal loadout, the AKM and DP28, my version of that loadout, which I prefer, which is the Dirty Mortal, I call it, which is the Barrel M762 and the DP28. And then so many of the professional players who will run an AKM and an M416 or an M762 and an M416. This is because that kind of loadout gives you tremendous versatility. And if you were worried that I was going to come out of this and not tell you which is the best, don't stress. I'm going to tell you. I think the best out of these two guns is the M416, because across all maps, across all given situations, if you have to pick one gun to get it done, you're probably going to run with an M416. All the spray patterns for this gun are gorgeous. And out of all the 5.56 ARs, I mean, I think it's the third best 5.56 AR, but you can't get a G36C anywhere else but Vikendi, and you can only find an AUG 3 in a freaking crate. So the one that most often is going to get you across the line is the M416. Now, if I had to pick a gun out of the M416 and the AKM to win a TDM game with, I'm going to go with an AKM, because an AKM is completely dominant when it comes to under 15, 20 meters. Like its ability to squarely just drop people so fast. How many times have you had engagements where you feel like you've won and then you die, and you look at what the guy's holding and it's an AKM in his hands? It's just so common for me that is the kind of gun that I go, oh, it's all right, he's got an AKM. 50 damage into a level 1, a level 3 helmet is pretty crackers. But what about the fact that the AKM can actually do 110 damage to a no helmet wearing target, or 77 damage to a level 1 helmet? That's right, it can one-shot a target without a helmet on. So early game, you don't want to be anywhere near with someone with an AKM. And if I, in fact, find that I'm up against someone who's got an AKM, I'll quite often redeploy somewhere else. I'll just reposition until I can find a decent helmet, because I hate poking 7.62 rounds. You poke AKMs and barrels and even Mark 47 mutants, and bad things happen to you. Another thing that you will find with a gun like this is if you get good at judging engagement scale, you can just always hang on to, like, that's a bot. I don't mean to put bots in here, but I wanted to show that the AKM, if you're going to run it somewhere like Sanok or anywhere else, one of the best kind of things you can do is find a good DMR with it. Like QBU is amazing. Mark 14 is even better, and you know, like I'd probably just run the Mark 14 as a full auto, or a Mini 14, or any of those kind of guns will work just brilliantly with it, because they can then cover ups for some of the shortcomings that the AKM has, which is, you know, 100 meters away, it can be very difficult to hit targets, especially if they're moving, and that slow shell velocity. Whereas with the M416, you can turn around and use it as a pseudo DMR and actually tap fire it so effectively at 200 meters. And I do that more than I try and spray with it, because I just don't. And look, can I just clear one little thing up here? I hardly ever get killed by people spraying. And the reason is I run hard cover to hard cover. So unless they're running a no recoil script, by the time I start getting hit, even if they hit with half of the first 20 rounds, like, you know, half of the first 10 rounds, I'm usually behind a rock or behind a tree or something. The way you die from full spray people with M416s is by running around in the open. Anyway, if I had to pick one, I'm going with the M416. If I get to pick again, I'm going to run them both. And I'm going to use the AKM up close and the M416 on all the other engagements. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Thank you so much for watching. It was a lot of fun to make. It was a lot of fun to play the two guns. And I think I'm going to run more AKM in the future. Look after yourselves. And until next time, stay safe on the battlefield. And click the link that I'm going to put up in the video at the end of it. It's going to be to my perfect sensitivity video settings vid. And you should probably watch that if you want to set your sensitivity up. Right. Do that now. Click that link. Sensitivity.